In this video, we'll be taking a first look at these, the iLoud Micro Monitor Pro from IK Multimedia. Let's go. Yes, this is the brand new model of micro reference monitor speakers from IK Multimedia. I've been hearing great things about the iLoud range for a long time. This is my first hands-on experience, so let's dive in and take a look. Oh, and full disclosure up front, IK Multimedia did provide me with these for review purposes. However, all of the opinions expressed are my own. And here they are. Now, this kit includes the two monitor speakers as well as the ARC microphone that helps you calibrate them once they're installed. You can also buy them individually if you like, and all the links to where you can pick these up are in the description of this video. And there it is. I do really like the design. I love the little foot that comes down here. There's the panel at the back. We'll take a decent look at that in a moment. But yeah, really nice feel. It's got some weight to it, so it feels like quality. And included in the box, we have this USB-C to USB-A cable, as well as a power cable for Australia, because that's where I live. And in this box included is this, the little microphone that we can use to calibrate these speakers, including its own microphone stand, which is pretty cool. And in the second box, we have, not surprisingly, our second monitor speaker. Now, I will of course plug these in and give you my first impressions, although speaker reviews are one of the harder things to do, a bit like headphones, because it's such a personal thing and you won't hear exactly what I hear. But I've used a lot of monitor speakers before, so I kind of know what's going to work for me in a mobile studio like what I use. A quick rundown of the features though: we've got professional reference quality sound, a Class D biamp in there, total DSP control, iLoud physics-defying bass, which it'll have to be, being this size, ultra compact. I love the size and the look of these, and flexible placement and connections. We do have RCA as well as XLR for balanced connection on these. Let's flip them around and show you now. In fact, the back of the box gives us a better view. You can hit pause on this one if you want to take a closer look, but you can see here we've got volume controls, we've got the RCA as well as XLR connection there, fully automatic built-in digital calibration. This is what I was looking for in a speaker. I'm not someone that's going to spend a lot of time or energy setting things up, so the easier it is to use, the better it is for me, and the flexibility, being able to use this with my Mac or with my iPad or whatever I'm using, and the portability is definitely something that I'm looking for in a monitor speaker. And here's the back of the real thing, and again, it just feels really solid. This volume control has a nice centering point and feels solid. All the buttons have a really satisfying click to them. You've got a USB-C port there, as well as your power port here, and that XLR for balanced, as well as RCA, meaning it's super flexible with what you can hook it up and with what you're using. So enough preamble, it's time now to plug these in and take a listen. So here we go, we're all set up here. All I've done so far is plugged in the power and connected an XLR to TRS balance cable to my mixer. And I know this isn't the point, but they just look so good, and I love the form factor. They're about half the size of my previous speakers, and I love the fact that the little stands there can make them point upwards. That's going to be handy because without speaker stands on the desk here, that's going to point those speakers right at my face. Now, when turning these on for the first time, according to the manual and common sense, you want to turn the volume all the way down to 0 just to avoid any feedback or any problems. So let's turn these volumes down and turn them on. So both the speakers are now powered on, and you can see these blue lights. These are some of the advanced EQ features that we'll be covering later in this video. And there you go. You can see with the LED lights on the front there that they're turned on and they're ready to go. Now, of course, I couldn't resist playing some audio through this before we do the full setup process. Now, the audio you heard there was captured by my iPhone microphone. You're watching it through compressed audio on a video streaming platform, so it's not really going to give you a full sense of what we just heard. But let me just say, with zero setup, with zero calibration, and at about a quarter volume, these things were great. iLoud is right. Really clear, really well-defined audio coming straight out of these things. I'm impressed out of the gate. Now, before we dive into some of the more advanced features and the software setup of these speakers, a quick look at the back panel here. So these buttons that we'll talk about in a moment, when you turn these, you can see that it changes the setting for each of these. You can check out the manual down below to see what each one of these does, but this will change the speaker settings by tapping each one of these. We have a USB-C connector here, which we'll plug into our Mac in just a moment, and that power button. To turn off the speaker, you need to hold the button down for about 3 seconds, and it will power down. To turn back on, just a simple tap. And we've connected via XLR, which is a balanced connection, and that's going into my mixer. You can also connect via an RCA port. There's your power connection there. There's the volume control. It's as simple as that. Lots of options here, but a very simple and clean looking layout. Now, I could end the first look video right here and say, yes, I would recommend these. You plug them in, they sound fabulous, and off you go. However, there's a whole lot more under the hood here. So why don't we flip things around, plug these into my computer, and see what they can do. It's wonderful to be back here in my beautifully treated studio room, except this isn't reality and it's probably not your reality either. So for the rest of us that are in bedroom studios, that are in the corners of the house where you don't have wonderful acoustic treatment, what can you do? Well, these speakers have got some great features. Let's dive in and check them out. Now, the first thing IK tell us to do is to grab your registration card, which you definitely didn't repackage back in the box, and jump over to the IK Product Manager app or website to register the speakers. Now, I've been using IK products for a while, so I've logged in to my IK Product Manager. Let's hit the register button, throw in this serial number, and download the software we can use to set up these speakers. Next up, we want to download the IK Monitor software. There'll be a link in the description, or you can use the links that you'll get with your speakers. Let's hit the download button and check it out. So IK Monitor is now installed here, as we can see. Now is time to connect these up with these USB-C to USB connectors to my computer and see what happens. Now, I've plugged in just one speaker, the left speaker at this point, and when we tap this drop down, there you go, iLoud Micro Monitor Pro. A firmware update is needed, and it does show that for the right speaker as well, but that might be because it's using that for both. It doesn't know which speaker is which. Let's plug in the second one and see if we get a second pop-up. And yes, now we have two different speakers here. Now, we can't use this identify button yet, but I'm assuming that's how we're going to be able to tell the difference. So I'm going to select this first one as the left speaker, and it's going to tell me that it needs a firmware update. Let's make sure that we've read all of this and then hit the button. And after reading that information, it's telling me to disconnect any other device. So we're going to unplug the other speaker. And let's update us some firmware. By the way, now that that's connected and plugged in, it turned blue here while it was doing that firmware update on the LED, and it's now flashed back to white. And there you go. It says firmware is now up to date. And now we can select this as our left speaker, and there it is. And I'm assuming if we hit this identify button, it might play a sound. No, even better than that, the LED light flashed showing which one it was. Let's plug in the other speaker and do the same. Oh, this time when I've plugged it in, there you go. We've got a new device detected here, and we can connect to right. And once again, it needs the firmware, and it does say to disconnect the other device. So I'm not going to mess around with this. I'm disconnecting the other one before we update the firmware on this one too. Let's hit the button. And once again, we're good to go. This time, I think we can hit this connect to right, and there it is. Let's plug the other one back in. And there you go. We've got both of the speakers here plugged in and ready to use with the software. Now, in this first look video, we're not going to dive into all the things that IK Monitor can do, but basically we can change what model these speakers are based on, and that's actually going to change the type of audio. You can do some quick changes down here to change the frequency response pattern from being very flat, which is the default for a reference monitor, to having some more colored frequencies if you're used to different types of gear. It's pretty cool. But one thing I really do want to try is to use this ARC microphone to do the special calibration setup that we can do here using IK Monitor and these speakers, because what that's supposed to do is calibrate them so that they sound the best in my very badly calibrated room. Now, if you're not using the IK Monitor software, you can also still use the calibration, and that's all down in the manual below. But since we've gone to the trouble of hooking these up and using the software, I say we do it the easy way. Let's get this microphone set up and go through this process. Now, apparently to do this, I need this ARC microphone. I need to make sure that it's pointed in the right direction, and I'm going to make sure it's moved to be right in my listening position. You will need an XLR cable as well, which I'm assuming plugs into the speaker, but let's hit the button here and let the software tell us what it needs to do. Oh, I love a setup assistant. I'm not a manual reader. Now, despite the picture, I don't think we need to insert the microphone in our head, but I might move my head out of the way when we do this. So it's saying we need to connect the microphone into the ARC mic in on the back of the selected speaker, and then position the microphone at the same height as your ears with the mic capsule facing towards the ceiling. For best results, use a mic stand with a boom arm, which we've got here, as far from the stand as possible to minimize reflections that could affect high frequencies. So I'm going to go to the speaker here. There's only one plug though, which I'm assuming is also the mic in as well as the output. Okay, the XLR cable is plugged into the microphone and to the speaker. I've got my head out of the way so that I can put this in my listening position. Let's hit the next button. All right, by the looks of it, I need to move this a little forward and to the left, and let's hit the capture point button. That's a thing. All right, let's do our second point. We need to move it over to this side. I'll try not to say anything this time, and let's do this one. Okay, time to move this sucker behind my head to the left. And you'll see there that every time I do it, you got the little orange thing that goes around there while it's doing the calculation. Let's move it to the final point and we'll be done. Okay, that looks like all is done. Let's hit next to proceed. Calibration is done. Click on quit to exit the process. And oh yeah, you can see there that it's made a significant difference in the calibration of the frequencies here to accommodate my very special room here. Now, of course, I need to do the other speaker, but I'm probably going to redo those at a time where I'm not recording a video, just because I've got different things around here for the production of this one. But it's pretty cool and pretty simple to actually get that set up. Before we finish up here, I did promise we would return to these options on the back here, the blue LEDs. There's a bunch of options that we can change here, but let's dive into the manual because I got a feeling it's going to explain it a bit better. The first option there is the mode. The mode button allows you to cycle between a desk filter, flat, default, and custom user calibration. The desk filter sets the attenuation filter to compensate for a console or desk typical acoustic effect. Such placement usually results in a boost in the lower range. The desktop switch activates two bell-shaped filters with the following properties, and there's the bells that they have. Now, until you do the calibration that we just did, you won't have the custom option available on that particular button. Did that mean nothing to you? Don't stress, because IK Multimedia kind of take care of all of that for you, especially if you do the calibration that we just did. The next option here is the HF filter. The HF button controls the high frequency level using a shelf type EQ set to 8 kHz. This level can be set to plus 2 dB or 0 dB flat or minus 2 dB. So if you need to adjust your high frequency, that's the button you're going to press. Next is the LF filter. This controls the low frequency level using a shelf type EQ set at 100 Hz. These are those low bass frequencies, can be set to plus 2, 0 or minus 3. And this adjusts the proximity effect of sidewalls and ceilings. Use it whenever your room's acoustic cause problems in the low frequency range. So if you're mixing your bass and it's not working for you because you're in a boxy room with lots of reflective surfaces, that's something that you might want to check out. Next up is the LF extension. This is your classic high pass filter or low cut filter that's going to remove all of those low down bass frequencies, usually the ones that are under the human hearing level, especially if you're a little aged like me. And the manual, which I've got linked in the description, has a whole bunch more details. These speakers, the great thing about them is they're very simple. You can literally plug and play and be satisfied, or you can go into detail and change and tweak pretty much every setting. So final thoughts on the iLoud Micro Monitor Pro from IK Multimedia. I fell in love with these pretty much from the moment I opened the box, and then when I plugged them in and heard what they sounded like, I was super impressed. What do I like about these? The size is fabulous. They fit on your desk. They're not going to take up a whole lot of real estate. Love the little flip at the bottom here so that if you're on like a hotel room desk or you're having it out in your kitchen or your bedroom or wherever, you're going to be able to at least point those up at your ears. The connectivity here, it's not too much, but it's not too little. Plenty of options here for those that love to tweak. You've got balanced and unbalanced input here, an easy volume control that feels good and secure, nothing floating around there, and you've also got a nice convenient power button. The fact that we can plug these in and use software to calibrate them is amazing. I love that. The Arc mic that you get when you buy the 2-pack is super cool, and I just think that they're kind of cool. IK Multimedia, I've used their products for a long time. They're always right up there in terms of quality, and these things, like I say, the second you pull them out of the box and you look at them and you feel them, yeah, you're kind of going to fall in love with them. Again, I don't like not being able to find a fault with something, and if you hang around here on the channel, I'll be definitely using these. These are going to be my daily drivers for the next couple of months, so make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'll be returning and giving you my 1 month, 3 month kind of review after I've used them for a while. But out of the box, my first impressions of these, super cool. If you want to check them out, links in the description. I'll see you next time.